The Galactic Council chamber was silent. A room that usually echoed with the chatter of 100 different languages now felt like a tomb. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their floating seats, their faces pale and grim. The enormous screen at the center showed the latest report from the border worlds. A planet named Eredis had fallen, not just defeated in battle, but erased. Every city, every settlement, and every living thing was gone. The Vorn had done it again. The Vorn were not like other enemies. They did not negotiate. They did not send warnings or demands. They arrived in dark, organic-looking ships, stripped a world of its resources, and moved on to the next. No one knew where they came from, and no one had ever managed to speak with them. The council speaker, a tall, silver-skinned being named Veller, tapped the control panel in front of him. A calm but urgent voice filled the chamber. "We have lost 3 worlds in 1 month," Veller said. "If the Vorn continue at this speed, they will reach the core territories in less than a year. We must unite. We must send help to the border before it is too late." A murmur spread through the assembly. The representative from the Alari people spoke first. "The Alari cannot commit forces," she said. "We have suffered losses in the past, and our fleets must remain to defend our own space." Several others agreed. The Korth, the Athenians, the Lern, all powerful civilizations, refused to move their fleets. Their excuses varied, but the meaning was the same. They were afraid. Veller tried again. "We have called for aid across every known star system. We have sent messages to allies and neutrals alike. There must be someone willing to face the Vorn." The silence that followed was even heavier than before. An old representative from the Zoran Confederacy spoke slowly. "Perhaps no one will come. The Vorn are not an enemy you fight. They are an enemy you hide from." Veller's hands clenched on the table. He wanted to shout, but he knew anger would change nothing. "If we hide now, there will be nowhere left to hide." The meeting ended with no agreement. Some members avoided looking at each other as they left. Others spoke quietly in their own languages, trading rumors and fears. Later that night, Veller stood alone in his office, staring at the long list of unanswered distress calls. Messages had been sent to every known civilization, from the great empires to the smallest colonies. None had answered. Until now. His console beeped. The message was marked as coming from an unaligned system near the Orion Spur. Veller opened it, expecting another refusal. Instead, a calm voice spoke in a language translated instantly by the Council systems. "This is Commander Hale of the United Earth Fleet. We have received your message. We will send ships." Veller froze. He replayed the message to make sure it was real. Humans. Of all species, the humans had responded. The Council had debated the humans many times in the past. They were a young species compared to the ancient empires. Their expansion into space had been rapid, often clashing with neighbors. They had fought wars among themselves for centuries before uniting under a single banner. The Council had once described them as too aggressive and too dangerous to be trusted with large-scale influence. Yet now, they were the only ones willing to answer. Veller called an emergency meeting. The chamber filled again, though this time the air was thick with surprise. "The humans have offered their help," Veller announced. The statement was met with an instant wave of protests. "They are not members of the Council," said the representative from the Jurith worlds. "We cannot give them military control. They are a violent race," added the Alari speaker. "They solve every problem with force." Veller let them speak until the noise died down. Then he showed them the message. The image of Commander Hale appeared on the screen. The human was dressed in a simple dark uniform. His hair was short, his expression calm but firm. "We understand the danger of the Vorn," Hale said. "We also understand that hesitation will cost more lives. If you allow it, we will come, not as conquerors, but as allies." Some members remained unconvinced. "Why would they risk themselves for us?" asked one delegate. "They gain nothing from this war." Veller studied the human's message again before answering. "Perhaps they see something we do not, or perhaps they simply refuse to let fear rule them." The debate continued for hours. Some argued that letting humans take part in the war would set a dangerous precedent. Others argued that refusing their help would doom the border worlds. Finally, it was decided the humans would be allowed to join the defense, but their fleet would operate under observation. Council ships would accompany them to ensure they did not act recklessly. 3 days later, the galaxy saw something it had never seen before. From the darkness of hyperspace, a fleet of human warships emerged near the Council's primary defense station. They were unlike the sleek, graceful vessels of the older civilizations. Human ships were solid, angular, and bristling with weapons. Each one carried visible armor plating, and their hulls bore marks from past battles. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Resolute. His crew moved with practiced speed, checking systems and preparing for the next jump toward the border. A Council observer ship hailed them. The alien commander on the screen looked uneasy. "Human fleet, you are entering a restricted defense zone. State your purpose." Hale's voice was calm. "We are here because your people asked for help. We are here to fight the Vorn." The alien commander hesitated, then nodded. "Understood. Proceed." From the Council chamber, Veller watched the human fleet move into position. He noticed something unusual. Each human ship carried not only weapons, but also large transport bays filled with relief supplies, food, medical equipment, and shelter units. They were preparing to fight, but they were also preparing to rebuild. It was not what Veller had expected from a so-called ruthless species. Still, doubt lingered among many Council members. The humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous in war. Yet, for the first time since the Vorn had appeared, Veller felt a spark of hope. If the humans were truly as determined as they seemed, perhaps the galaxy still had a chance. The Council's main defense station hung in the darkness of space like a silver fortress, its towers glowing faintly against the black. Ships from dozens of species drifted around it, moving in careful patterns. The arrival of the human fleet had already been announced. In every docking bay, observation deck, and viewport was crowded with curious eyes. For many Council species, humans were a mystery. They had entered galactic politics only 2 decades ago, and in that short time, they had gained a reputation for boldness that bordered on recklessness. Some called it bravery, others called it trouble. Now, the observers would see for themselves. Without warning, a flare of light erupted at the edge of the system. One by one, massive ships emerged from hyperspace. They were not beautiful in the way alien craft often were. Council ships tended to have flowing designs, smooth curves, and elegant shapes. Human ships were the opposite, solid, angular, and built for survival. Their hulls bore dark armor plates. Their turrets tracked movement even at rest, and their engines glowed with steady power. The lead ship, the Resolute, moved ahead of the others like a spearhead. Its hull was painted in deep gray with a white emblem of Earth's unified government. Behind it came heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support ships, each bristling with weapons. On the observation deck of the station, alien delegates whispered to one another. "They bring so many guns," said a thin, insectoid diplomat from the Rylan cluster. "They are not here for show," replied a reptilian officer from the Vesh Guard. "Humans do not send half measures to war." Inside the Resolute, Commander Hale stood on the bridge. The crew worked with precision, their eyes moving between glowing displays. Hale's expression was calm, but his voice carried a quiet authority. "Formation is stable. All ships reporting ready," his first officer said. "Transmit our greeting to the station." Hale replied. A moment later, the main screen lit up with the image of the station's control commander, a tall alien with skin like polished stone. "Human fleet, welcome to Council space. You will proceed to docking sectors 3 through 6. Your request to join the defense effort has been accepted, though you will be under observation." "Understood," Hale said. "We are here to cooperate." The human fleet moved in, their engines firing in controlled bursts as they approached. The Council's smaller ships adjusted their positions, giving them room. When the first human ships docked, crowds gathered behind security barriers to watch. The docking bay's great doors opened, and ramps extended to the deck. The hiss of pressure seals releasing filled the air. From the Resolute, a group of human officers stepped out in dark blue uniforms. They moved with a disciplined stride, their boots echoing against the metal floor. Their leader was instantly recognizable from the earlier transmission, Commander Hale himself. Veller, the council speaker, had come in person to meet them. His silver skin reflected the overhead lights as he approached. "Commander Hale," Veller said, extending a hand like limb in greeting. "The council thanks you for your swift response." Hale shook the limb firmly. "We could not ignore the call for help. Humanity knows what it means to face a threat that will not stop." Behind Hale, several human crew members unloaded crates from their ships. Veller noticed the markings: medical supplies, food, water purifiers. These were not the tools of conquest, but of relief. A few alien observers exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected. From the so-called ruthless humans, the group moved toward the council's main strategy chamber. Along the way, Hale studied the mix of species passing through the station's wide corridors. He saw towering insect-like guards, small fur-covered engineers, and diplomats with luminous skin. Most of them watched him with caution, some with open suspicion. Inside the chamber, a holographic map displayed the outer sectors where the Vorn had been sighted. The red zones of destruction had grown in the last week. Veller gestured toward the map. "This is the border. The Vorn have moved faster than we expected. We have stationed fleets here, and here, but we are stretched thin." Hale studied the map carefully. "You are reacting to their movements, not predicting them." A Korth general bristled. "We do not take lessons from a young species. Our fleets are capable of defense. Defense will only slow them," Hale replied evenly. "If you want to stop the Vorn, you have to make them change their plans. You have to strike." The room fell silent. For many of the Council's older civilizations, aggressive action was a last resort. Wars in their histories had been slow, calculated affairs, full of political maneuvering. The human approach was direct, and it unsettled them. Veller broke the silence. "Commander Hale, we will hear your proposal." Hale stepped forward, pointing to a section of the map near the red zones. "The Vorn have been avoiding this system, likely because its star's radiation interferes with their ships. If we can lure them there and cut off their retreat, we can destroy a significant portion of their fleet." The Korth general scoffed. "You would risk a battle that close to a star." Hale's gaze was steady. "We would risk it if it saves entire worlds." Veller studied the human commander. The man's tone was calm, but there was no mistaking the resolve behind his words. After the meeting, some delegates left shaking their heads. Others spoke in hushed voices about the possibility of taking the fight to the enemy. For the first time in weeks, the council had more than fear to discuss. That night, in the quiet of the station's observation lounge, Hale stood looking out at the stars. His first officer joined him. "Do you think they will agree to your plan?" The officer asked. "They might not," Hale said. "But we came here to help, not to wait for permission. If we see a chance to save lives, we will take it." Far below the station, the human fleet waited, their dark hulls reflecting the distant light of the stars. The Vorn had yet to appear in this sector, but when they did, they would find something new in their path, a force that did not hide, did not hesitate, and did not run. For now, the council watched and whispered. Some still doubted the humans. Others began to wonder if perhaps the galaxy's youngest warriors might be its only hope. The warning came in the middle of the night cycle. The station's alert systems blared, their sharp tones echoing through every corridor. In the council strategy chamber, Veller arrived quickly, followed by several military delegates. "Commander." Hale was already there, his uniform crisp, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "The Vorn have entered the Uran system," a council officer announced. "They are moving toward the colony on Uran Prime. Estimated arrival in less than 6 hours. The hologram shifted to show the system. A single inhabited world lay in the path of a massive cluster of red signals. Uran Prime was a peaceful farming colony with minimal defenses. Veller turned to the assembled officers. "We have the fleets nearby. One belongs to the Alari, stationed here. The other is the human fleet, docked at our station. Both can reach the colony before the Vorn land, but only if they leave immediately." The Alari delegate shook her head. We cannot risk our ships so close to the enemy's advance. If we lose them, our homeworld will be defenseless. Commander Hale's voice was steady. Then we will go. Veller looked at him. You understand the risk. You may be outnumbered. Hale nodded. We have faced worse. Orders went out. At once, within minutes, the human fleet was powering away from the station, their engines burning bright against the black. The Resolute led the way, flanked by cruisers and destroyers. The smaller support ships carried additional supplies for evacuation efforts. As they neared the Uran system, the crew prepared for combat. Weapons crews loaded ammunition. Engineers checked shield emitters. Pilots ran through attack simulations. The hum of readiness filled every deck. On the bridge, Hale studied the latest data. The Vorn fleet was larger than expected, 20 major ships and dozens of smaller craft. Their formation was tight, like a swarm moving with a single mind. They will target the colony first, Hale said. We will block them before they reach orbit. Signal the evacuation ships to begin at once. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace just outside the system. Before them, the Vorn ships loomed like dark shadows. Their surfaces were uneven and organic, as if grown rather than built. Jagged spines jutted from their hulls, and their movement was unnervingly smooth. Contact in 30 seconds, the sensor officer reported. All ships, engage, Hale ordered. The first exchange was sudden and violent. Human railguns and missile batteries roared, sending streaks of fire into the darkness. The Vorn returned with beams of green energy that sliced through space. Shields flared on impact. And hull plating shuddered under the strain. Human ships moved in coordinated patterns, weaving through enemy fire. They targeted the smaller Vorn craft first, thinning the swarm. Every time a Vorn ship exploded, it broke apart into fragments that drifted like shattered bone. But the enemy pressed on. Two Vorn cruisers pushed toward the evacuation ships, forcing Hale to split his forces. The Resolute and a pair of destroyers intercepted, their weapons blazing. On the colony's surface, evacuation teams worked frantically. Farmers and their families boarded shuttles under the watch of human marines. The sky above flickered with the light of battle. Back in orbit, the fight grew desperate. A human cruiser took a direct hit, its engines failing. Smoke and fire erupted along its hull. But the crew kept firing until their last weapon went silent. Another destroyer managed to ram an enemy craft, destroying both in a burst of light. Through it all, the Resolute remained at the center of the fight. Hale's voice stayed calm as he directed his fleet, adjusting formations and exploiting gaps in the enemy's movements. He noticed that the Vorn ships reacted slowly. When their forward sensors were damaged, target their sensor arrays. Hale ordered, blind them and move in close. The tactic worked, with their coordination disrupted. The Vorn formation began to break apart. Human ships darted in, hitting weak points with precision strikes. One by one, the enemy craft fell. After nearly 2 hours of relentless combat, the Vorn began to retreat. Their ships turned away from the colony and vanished into hyperspace. The humans did not chase them. The priority was the safety of the civilians. The battle was over, but the cost was high. Several human ships were damaged beyond repair, and hundreds of crew members had been lost. Still, thousands of colonists were alive because the humans had stood their ground. On the surface, the last evacuation shuttle lifted off. The colonists looked back at their fields and homes, knowing they might never return. But they also knew they had been saved by strangers from a distant world. When the human fleet returned to the station, the council was waiting. Veller met Hale on the docking platform. You stop them, Veller said. For now, Hale replied. They will be back, and next time, they will come in greater numbers. Some council members still regarded the humans with suspicion, but others now saw them differently. The whispers in the corridors spoke of courage and sacrifice. The youngest species in the galaxy had done what the older ones would not. They had stood between the enemy and the innocent, no matter the risk. Hale returned to the Resolute that night and stood at the forward viewport. The stars stretched out before him, quiet and cold. The Vorn were still out there, moving toward their next target, and humanity would be ready. The council chamber was filled to capacity, every seat was taken, and the air was heavy with the quiet hum of translated voices. The battle at Uran Prime had changed the atmosphere. For the first time since the Vorn appeared, there was proof. They could be stopped, but the method had divided opinion. Veller stood at the center platform, his silver skin glinting under the bright lights. "We meet today to decide our next course of action," he announced. "The Vorn will strike again, and we must be prepared." Commander Hale of the United Earth Fleet will present his plan. All eyes turned as Hale stepped forward. He wore the same dark blue uniform as before, with no medals or decorations. His voice carried clearly across the chamber. "The Vorn are not invincible," he began. "At Uran Prime, we forced them to retreat, but they will adapt, and they will come back stronger. If we stay on defense, they will choose where and when to attack. We will always be too late. The only way to change this war is to take the fight to them." A low wave of murmurs passed through the chamber. The Korth General, a tall figure with scaled armor like skin, stood sharply. "Your proposal is reckless. To strike into enemy territory without knowing their full strength is to invite disaster." Hale met the general's gaze. "If we wait until we know everything, we will be waiting until they reach the heart of your worlds. They will not give us the luxury of time." The Alari delegate leaned forward. "Humans have a history of wars fought with speed and force. That may work for your kind, but this is a galaxy-wide threat. Our fleets are not built for constant offense." Hale nodded slightly. "Then let the humans lead the attack. We are not asking your fleets to fight our way, but if you will lend support, supplies, intelligence, or even a few ships, we can hit the Vorn where they least expect it." Veller gestured to the holographic map hovering above the central platform. "Commander Hale, show us your plan." The map shifted to display several red zones where the Vorn had struck. Hale highlighted a system on the edge of their known territory. "This is the Varel system," he explained. "Our intelligence suggests the Vorn are using it as a staging area. From here, they can strike 3 major council sectors within days. If we can destroy their base here, we can delay their advance by months and force them to regroup." The Jurith representative tilted his head. "You are certain this base exists?" "No," Hale said plainly, "but the Vorn movements fit the pattern. It is a calculated risk. If we are wrong, we still force them to react to us instead of the other way around." The Korth General slammed a clawed hand against his desk. "Risk is not strategy." Hale's tone stayed calm. "In war, risk is unavoidable. The difference is whether you choose it or let the enemy choose it for you." Veller raised a hand. "For silence, if we consider this strike, what forces would be required?" Hale outlined the plan. "A small, fast fleet, enough to fight off a local defense force, but not so large that we draw their full attention. Before we arrive, the humans will provide the main combat ships. We request a few council vessels with advanced scanning arrays to locate the base quickly. Once we find it, we strike hard and withdraw before they can gather reinforcements." The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates argued for the plan, saying it was the first real chance to change the war's momentum. Others said it was suicide. At one point, the Alari delegate turned to Veller. "You cannot trust them. They fought recklessly at Uran Prime. Yes, they saved the colony, but they also lost ships we cannot replace." Hale answered before Veller could speak. "Every ship we lost bought time for civilians to escape. That was a trade we were willing to make. Would your people have done the same?" The Alari delegate did not answer. A small representative from the Ryland cluster, an insectoid diplomat, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "The humans are willing to take risks, the rest of us will not. Perhaps that is what we need. The Vorn will not be defeated by caution alone." Veller listened to the arguments, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "The council will vote, but know this, if we do nothing, the Vorn will decide our future for us." The vote was tense. Many delegates hesitated before casting their decision. In the end, the plan passed by a narrow margin. The humans would lead a strike into Vorn territory, with limited council support. After the session, Veller met Hale privately in the Council's observation lounge. The station's windows framed a field of distant stars. "You realize most of the Council still does not trust you," Veller said. "I know," Hale replied. "Trust is earned. We will earn it on the battlefield." Veller studied him for a moment. "You speak as if you expect not to return." Hale allowed a faint smile. "We expect to win. But if we do not, I want it to matter that we tried." Veller extended a hand-like limb. Hale shook it firmly. As the human commander left, Veller turned back to the stars. The youngest species in the galaxy had just convinced the oldest powers to take the boldest step yet. The Vorn would not see it coming. The human-led strike fleet assembled beyond the edge of Council-controlled space. 12 human warships formed the core, flanked by 4 smaller Council vessels equipped with advanced scanners. The combined fleet was not large, but it was fast and heavily armed. Every crew member knew the mission: enter Vorn territory, find their staging base in the Varel system, strike hard, and get out before reinforcements arrived. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Hale stood with his arms folded, eyes fixed. On the star map hovering before him, the Varel system lay ahead, an unremarkable cluster of planets and a dim yellow star. There were no friendly colonies, no trade routes, and no safe harbors. It was deep in hostile space. First Officer Mason stepped up beside him. "All ships report ready. Engines charged for the first jump." Hale gave a single nod. "Signal the fleet. We go in quiet." The jump to hyperspace was smooth. Outside the windows, space warped into streaks of light. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, checking weapons, calibrating sensors, and securing every system. The tension was heavy, but it was a focused kind of tension, the kind that came before a storm. 3 hours later, the fleet emerged into the outskirts of the Varel system. The view was strange. A ring of icy asteroids surrounded the system like a jagged wall. The star's light was weak, casting long shadows across the drifting rocks. Council scanners online, reported Lieutenant Wren, one of the alien officers. "Aboard. Beginning sweep for energy signatures." The fleet moved slowly through the asteroid ring. Human destroyers took point, their weapons ready. The smaller Council ships glided alongside, their sensor rays rotating like metal flowers seeking the sun. Minutes passed. Then the scanners lit up with faint readings. "I have something," Wren said, his voice sharp. "Weak power signatures. Near the 3rd planet, the readings are irregular, as if they are masked." Hale leaned closer to the display. "Masking is exactly what we would expect from a staging base. Set a course, tight formation. No transmissions unless necessary." They approached. The 3rd planet came into view. It was barren and red, with jagged mountain ranges and deep craters. On the far side, nestled in the shadow of a canyon, the scanners picked up structures, tall, twisted shapes that looked like they had grown from the ground. "That's it," Mason said quietly. The Vorn base was partly buried in rock, its surface bristling with spines and antenna-like growths. Organic-looking hangars opened to reveal dark, insect-like ships. The fleet had found its target. "Enemy activity detected," Wren warned. "They see us." A swarm of Vorn ships began to pour from the hangars, moving with deadly coordination. Hale's voice was steady. "All ships, engage. Hit them before they spread out." The human fleet surged forward, railguns and missile batteries lighting up the void. The first wave of enemy craft shattered under the barrage. The Council scanner ships hung back, relaying targeting data to the human gunners. The Vorn fought hard, their ships twisted and dove like predators in a hunt, firing streams of green energy that cut across the darkness. A human destroyer took a hit to its side, its armor melting under the impact. But it stayed in formation. "Push through," Hale ordered. "We need to get close to the base." The fleet forced a gap in the swarm and drove toward the canyon. As they neared, the base itself began to fire. Massive spines along its surface glowed and launched bursts of plasma. One shot grazed the Resolute, shaking the entire ship, shields holding. "But we can't take many more like that," Mason reported. "Then we make it count," Hale said. "Target those weapon spines. Take them out one by one. Human gunners. Focus their fire. blasting apart the glowing spines. The explosions rippled along the base's surface, clearing a path for the fleet. The Council scanner ships transmitted a final set of coordinates. Central power core located, Ren said. If destroyed, it will disable the entire base. Hale's plan was immediate. Cruisers, focus on the core. Destroyers, keep the swarm busy. All other ships, protect the scanner vessels. The battle became chaos. Railgun shells slammed into the base's core, tearing through layers of alien structure. The Vorn swarm tried to regroup, but the humans were relentless, weaving through enemy lines with precision. Finally, a massive explosion ripped through the canyon. The power core erupted in a bright flash, sending shock waves across the planet's surface. The base's remaining defenses went dark. They're falling back, Mason reported. Indeed. The Vorn ships began to scatter, retreating into the depths of the system. The humans did not chase. They had achieved their goal, and they knew reinforcements could arrive at any moment. Mission complete, Hale said. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. As the fleet pulled away, the destruction below was clear. The Vorn staging base was gone, its hangars and towers reduced to smoking ruins. The strike had worked. Hours later, the fleet emerged back into Council space. Messages of relief and surprise poured in from the Allied sectors. For the first time since the war began, the Vorn had lost a key position. In the Council chamber, Veller addressed the assembly. The humans have struck a blow against our enemy. Their success proves the Vorn can be hurt where it matters. Let this be the beginning of a new strategy. Some delegates applauded. Others remained silent, still wary of human methods. But none could deny the result. Back aboard the Resolute, Hale walked the length of the bridge, checking on his crew. Many were tired, some injured, but their spirits were high. They had gone into the heart of enemy territory and returned victorious. Mason looked at him and said, "They will come after us for this." Hale nodded. "Yes, and we will be ready, far beyond the borders, in the dark corners of the galaxy." The Vorn were already gathering again. The humans had wounded them, and a wounded predator was always dangerous. But humanity had made its choice. They would not wait for the storm. They would meet it head-on. The strike fleet drifted in the silence of space. The Varel system was behind them. But the war was far from over. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his eyes fixed on the star map. Ahead lay the deadliest part of their mission. The heart of the Vorn threat. Reports from scouts came in slowly. The Vorn forces were gathering faster than expected. Their ships moved with purpose, heading to a single point in space near a dying star. The sensors picked up strange energy readings, not from weapons or engines, but something else, something alive. Lieutenant Ren, the Council's expert on alien technology, reported. "Commander, the readings come from what seems to be a central control structure. It is located near the star's corona, in an area dangerous for normal ships." Hale nodded. "That fits the pattern. The Vorn seem to rely on a hive mind. If we destroy this control, we may break their coordination." The fleet prepared for the jump into this dangerous zone. The dying star's radiation flooded their shields as they approached. The pilots had to keep steady despite the flickering sensors and the harsh environment. "Keep formation tight," Hale ordered. "Watch for traps." The first Vorn warships appeared like shadows against the star's glare. They were larger and more terrifying than any before. Their hulls seemed alive, shifting and changing as if breathing. The Resolute fired first, sending a burst of plasma that struck one of the Vorn ships. The battle began in earnest. The Vorn counterattacked with beams of green energy that tore through space. The human fleet dodged and weaved, their training and discipline tested to the limit. Hale watched as the enemy tried to protect their control structure. They fought fiercely, but their coordination faltered when the humans targeted the smaller warships first. "Focus fire on the lead ship," Hale commanded. "If we can break their front, the rest will lose direction." The human guns burned bright. A Vorn warship exploded, then another. The swarm started to break apart. Suddenly, a large energy pulse hit the Resolute, knocking out part of its shields. Alarms blared and crew members rushed to repair the damage. "Damage report," Hale demanded. Shields down 50% on the starboard side, the chief engineer replied. We're rerouting power. The battle was close and deadly. The dying star's radiation made every move dangerous, yet the humans pushed forward. The council ships, though smaller, provided crucial support. Their advanced sensors tracked enemy movements and guided the human guns. Lieutenant Wren transmitted. New data. Commander, the control structure is vulnerable now. I'm sending coordinates for a direct strike. Hale nodded. Cruisers, prepare for final assault. Destroyers, cover the flanks. Support ships. Keep shields strong. The fleet surged. Toward the control structure, the Vorn fought desperately to defend it. But the humans were relentless. The Resolute launched a missile loaded with a new weapon, designed to disrupt the Vorn's hive mind. It hit the control core, causing a bright explosion that shook the star system. For a moment, silence returned. Then the Vorn ships began to lose formation. Their weapons faltered, and many turned away. Retreating into hyperspace, the fleet held its position, ready for any surprise. But the battle was won. Commander Hale looked around at his crew. Exhaustion was clear on their faces, but so was relief. Veller's voice came through the comm. Commander Hale, the Council has received your report. Your success has given us new hope. Hale replied, Thank you, Speaker Veller. This is just the beginning. The Vorn are not defeated, but their strength is broken. The Council held a special session to honor the human fleet's achievement. Representatives spoke of bravery and sacrifice. Some even apologized for doubting the young species. But Hale remained humble. We did what we must, the galaxy's future depends on unity and courage. As the fleet prepared to return to Council space, Hale looked out at the stars. The war was far from over, but now the tide had turned. The humans had shown that even the darkest enemy could be challenged, not by hiding, but by standing strong and fighting together. The war had changed. The news of the Vorn control structure's destruction spread quickly through the galaxy. For the first time in many cycles, fear gave way to hope. The Council met again in their grand chamber, the air buzzing with cautious optimism. Veller stood before the assembly, his silver skin shining under the light. The strike led by Commander Hale and the United Earth Fleet has struck a decisive blow to the Vorn. Their control over their forces has been broken. This victory marks a new chapter in our war. The chamber erupted with applause. Even those who had doubted the humans now spoke of their bravery and skill. Some representatives, once cold or hostile, nodded in respect. Commander Hale was present as well. He stood quietly to the side, his face calm but proud. When the crowd quieted, Veller invited him forward. Commander Hale, Veller said, you and your fleet have shown courage and resolve beyond expectation. The Council offers you and your people full membership in the Alliance. Hale accepted with a humble bow. Thank you, Speaker Veller. We came to help because we share the hope for peace. Our home may be young, but our desire to protect life is as old as the stars. In the days that followed, the Council worked to reorganize their forces. Inspired by the human success, more fleets volunteered to join the fight. Cooperation between species increased. No longer was the Council divided by fear and doubt. Instead, they moved forward with unity. The humans, once outsiders, became symbols of determination. Their ships, once viewed as crude, were now praised for their resilience and design. Their willingness to take risks and fight fiercely inspired others. Back on the Resolute, Hale gathered his officers. This victory is important, he said, but the war is not over. The Vorn will regroup and try to strike again. We must prepare for what comes next. Lieutenant Mason nodded. We've proven we can win. Now we need to hold that ground. The crew worked hard, repairing ships, training new recruits, and strengthening defenses. Morale was high, and hope burned bright. Far from the front lines, on a quiet planet, survivors of worlds lost to the Vorn began to rebuild. Refugees shared stories of human courage. Their kindness and strength had saved many lives. In the Council's observation lounge, Veller watched the stars. The galaxy was still fragile, but it was healing. He thought about the humans, their boldness, their refusal to give up, and their fierce loyalty to life. They had answered when others stayed silent. They had fought when others hid. A small smile touched his lips. Perhaps the galaxy's future was brighter because of them. Commander Hale's words echoed in his mind. We share the hope for peace. Our desire to protect life is as old as the stars. The war had tested them all. It had forced old enemies to become allies. It had shown that even the darkest threats could be met with light. And it had proven that humanity, young and untested, was ready to stand among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians.